Welcome back to another episode of Outdoor Adventures on Brownfield. I'm Brent Barnett. Today's show is brought to you by Beck's Hybrids. At Beck's, we are and will remain farmers at heart. Well, this week on the show, we're joined by Shane Simpson, a really popular YouTube hunter and well-known turkey caller, and also helps lead the TRAKR app for dog tracking. Shane, how are you doing here today, man?
Doing good. Ready to get back out in those woods.
Yeah, absolutely. For a lot of states, Shane, bow season is open. A lot of people have already been out there and going after big bucks. What have you been doing here as September has been underway?
Well, I've actually been out also. I headed out west and did some deer hunting out there. And gosh, you just had to go watch my YouTube video, the latest one I post. I won't spoil it for you, but I had a plan and put it in place, and it worked out to some degree. I got in there real tight with the bedded buck, so just go watch it. So I count that as some success out there. And then I haven't hunted since I got back home. It just opened yesterday here, or Saturday here in Minnesota. I'm dealing with TRAKR issues, as I'm one of the co-founders, and I'm basically an admin for it, and I'm vetting TRAKR. So people are signing up, track requests are coming in. The app is doing really successful this year so far. On opening weekend, we have taken in a lot of track requests and get some loose ends tied up around here, and I'm going to hit the woods again in the morning here in Minnesota.
Yeah, so Shane, not only in being from Minnesota there, what are some of your hunting plans this year? Are you looking to travel more out of state?
No, I'll just do the out-of-state early season before it starts here, because I don't get as much time to hunt here because I'll be tracking a lot. And I'm trying to take advantage of, we have like 50 teams approximately here in Minnesota, tracking teams. And so it makes my workload as far as tracking lighter than it has in years past. But the early season is a lighter workload anyway, and so it gives me a chance to get out there and do some deer hunting for myself. But as we roll into late September, getting into October, those requests for tracking dogs comes in, and I won't get as much time to hunt for myself. I'll be tracking a lot.
I remember here a few years back, you had a video where you shot a velvet, I think it was maybe an 8 or a 9 pointer in Nebraska on a morning, and I think there was another buck in bow range with him. What's different for you during the early season? Do you, scout areas differently, or do you attack certain areas differently at that part of the year with the hot conditions and things like that?
No, those deer out there, it's hot out there all summer, and so they have a pattern that they're on, and it's not out there. It's so wide open. Their pattern is not like they leave this spot and they go this spot. It's more like they leave this spot and they're going to go out here and anywhere, but they'll return to, there's certain spots they'll return to. So, but you just got to be in that right spot. So basically there's types of habitat they're going to key in on for bedding and whatever, but they have a number of those available. So you could be at this one today and they go bed at the other one. And so that's, I guess my key is just, I'm focusing on those for bedding, but I'm also trying to find travel routes to and from those. So when they do return to like the bedding, there's certain spots that I don't know how to really describe it, but imagine a tree line. They're going to walk that tree line first before they head into the bedding. It seems like they could come from any direction, north, east, south, or west, but they may hit this one little transition line and then work it to finish their route into bedding. So I just try to find the bedding cover, and there can be some areas where it's just expansive. There's a lot of it, but there's little pockets inside that they prefer. And like I said, there's little travel routes that they'll finish their way into the bedding. So I try to tackle those spots.
Of course, early season could be different for, other states. September 1st.
Oh, yeah.
September 15th in Missouri. Here where I'm at in Iowa, it doesn't open until October 1st, so we're still a couple weeks out yet. So when you kind of look at early season in general, Shane, do you like morning hunts or evening hunts better?
So, yeah, we should probably start calling it something else other than the early season. We should probably just start calling it by the dates, like I'll say early September. But, yeah, I like evening hunts in general because I don't like getting up early. But also I feel like I'm bumping deer and stuff as I head in there because the deer are on their feet in the dark or they may be heading back to bedding, and I'm in the morning hunts, I'm trying to focus on bedding. Like tomorrow morning's hunt. I found a spot when I was turkey hunting this spring, and man, we had a bird gobbling, but I stopped and made a point to document the location. I took some video of the area, and I said, I'm coming back. It was a perfect spot. I mean, the way it's set up, I said I could slip in here and undetected early in the morning and get set up on the bed and then hunt the bed itself and catch the buck coming back. And my buddy's like, man, we got a turkey gobbling. Let's go. It ain't deer season. I'm like, so that's tomorrow morning. That's kind of spots. If I do hunt mornings, I'm targeting a buck bedding. But if I don't have a spot like that and the wind's not favorable, or the wind's not favorable, then I'll skip the morning and I'll sleep in. I like the evening ones where I can target bedding cover as a whole and try to hunt those trails coming out of the bedding cover as they go to feed. That's kind of my strategy.
And Shane, I have a spot that here on a piece of public in Iowa that I've had some really good encounters with the last couple of years. And I went and scouted that piece here a week or so ago, just kind of going in there, checking things out. Was there any sign or anything, seeing the tracks like usual. I don't know if it was all the rain that we had earlier this spring here in Iowa, but oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe the infestation of weeds that were probably 2 feet above my head, all through this timber. It was really crazy and it was really hard to navigate. You ever come across something like that?
Not quite that tall.
Yeah.
But some of these areas I hunt, the beddings cover, if it's native vegetation, et cetera, can be either waist to shoulder height to where I can just barely see over it. I love actually hunting cover like that, thick cover, finding those trails because it confines the deer to certain routes. Whereas, if it's easy for them to move through, that it can randomly move through. One spot I have also that I'll probably target tomorrow afternoon. I was actually thinking about hunting it in the morning, but I'm kind of leaning towards that buck bed I found. And I say it's a buck bed because it's set up well. It had a wall of vegetation against it. The ground was wore out. There was old rubs on all the trees right there in that one spot. And you could see like 2 or 3 beds close together, like he repositions his body based on the sun, et cetera. But, the other spot is bedding. And I thought about, and targeted it because, I can catch all these deer kind of filtering out and I don't have to worry about them going anywhere. All the trails kind of filter out to like 1 or 2 key spots. And so I can focus on that. And that's why I like that thicker cover.
Yeah. I don't know if this was like water hemp or giant ragweed, or I'm not an expert on weed identification, but it just kind of took me by surprise seeing how much that had really overgrown. And
yeah, we had a pretty wet year this year. Even out west, I noticed when I drove out there at end of August to start glassing before the opener, everything was so much greener than it typically is. You could just see that the hills look green, had that green cast where normally it's brown. It's so hot and dry out there, but that's been the case across the Midwest this year. A lot of rain.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, I did want to ask you about the TRAKR app. So obviously a lot of folks are learning more and more about, dog tracking and utilizing those services. This is something I know that you're very passionate about, Shane. So might have you just kind of take the lead here on your background in tracking deer with a dog and how the TRAKR app came to be.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that this weekend. I was like, how did I get from, this one little chance meeting led to this app today. I went on a media hunt for turkey hunting years ago. The guy that lived next door, and also helped the outfitter locate deer for hunters in the fall, was a tracker. And at night we'd sit there and have these stories. He'd tell these tracking stories. And I found it so fascinating and intriguing. And I'm like, man, I need to get me a tracking dog. Well, it wasn't until I got back and I took a buddy hunting to one of my spots, and I'd already filled a tag, so I was filming him. And he shot a buck, hit it right in the shoulder. And long story short, we tracked it, couldn't find any blood, couldn't find anybody to help us grid search for it. And we thought we lost the deer. The deer actually showed back up on camera. It survived. It was a non-lethal hit. But at that point, I said, I'm getting a dog. So I got a dog. That was in 2000. 16, I guess, November or something like that, or September, something along those lines. Started trained it the following year. The following year in 2017, she was a year old, started tracking. I would post the stories. People would ask for video. So then I started videoing the tracks, put it on YouTube. The YouTube channel grew. I became an admin for the Minnesota Tracking Dogs. Realized there was a lot of work in the admin field there. And so I was like, we got to create something different. We made a website to handle that. And then we decided to go ahead and make the app and make, so that's kind of like leaving out a lot of details, but that's how it got from there to here.
So what features are on the app hunters can utilize? So, if they're out during archery season, say, and, they make a questionable shot on a deer, doe or buck, what have you. If they go to the app, what can they expect whenever they get there?
All right. So it's going to ask you to create an account, your name, user, email and password, etc. When you get in there, you can submit a request right away. It's totally free for this aspect of it. If you want to ahead of time, you go ahead and create a weapon toolbox. Like I have my compound bow in there with the draw weight listed and the arrow weight and the broadheads and all that stuff and my recurve. So when you get to the time that you need a tracking dog, you just hit request. It'll ask you, what you shot, when you shot it, and what weapon you used. And instead of you having to fill all that stuff out, you just use the pre-selected or pre-stored weapon, and it populates all the answers with, your broadhead, et cetera. And so we have that answer, like if it's a mechanical or fixed, or if it's a firearm, you can add firearms to your toolbox. But anyway, you're going to be asked the same questions that a tracker would ask you, like when you call them on the phone. And then you hit submit, and it sends a push notification to all the trackers in the area. And so we instantly, we get that notification. We know right away that you need help, and we'll start offering our services when we're available. So you may get a response from multiple trackers, and then you can look at their profile, their ratings and reviews, their fees, and pick the one that works for you. All that's free. Same thing for the tracker. Using the app is free. Now, there are some analytics that is subscription-based, and that's what we're using to help pay for the app, the development and maintaining it. And that's from the data that comes in for tracking requests. And we're also adding this week a feature to manually submit data that you hunted, you shot a deer and you want that data saved. You can submit that data. You didn't need a dog. That'll be in the next update. And all those analytics are available to you if you subscribe. Your personal analytics, so like data you submit or tracks that were taken through the app, or app-wide data, and it is updated immediately. So as soon as a track is entered or completed on the app, you'll see the little number increase, and those stats gradually change. So that's kind of the gist of the app in a nutshell right there.
Dog tracking, is it legal in most states, Shane?
Yeah, just about every state in the United States. Just 2 or 3, probably less. 2 or 3 or 4, maybe at most. Now there are some limitations in some, like California. I think there's something depending on what part of the state you're in, but overall, just about every state's legal.
What advice would you give hunters that maybe they hit a questionable or marginal shot? What's your piece of advice to them before they reach out to a tracking someone with a tracking dog?
Well, I mean, it depends on where you hit it. I mean, like with my daughter, I saw that she hit it in the guts, and I immediately I said, we're not even going to walk near where the deer was standing. We're just going to leave and bring the dog out in the morning. I have that luxury because I have a tracking dog. But I mean, if it's a trophy deer that you don't want to chance it at all, the cleaner the track, the better it is for a tracking dog. And what I mean by clean, you haven't walked over there and disturbed this scent trail. You haven't picked up any of the scent molecules from the wounded animal, and you're creating false trails as you walk around. That's a clean track. That's the easiest for a dog to follow. But basically, if you go there and start tracking a deer, even if you made a less than desirable shot, it may have still killed the deer. Stay off to one side of the trail as you're tracking. You don't want to disturb it. Mark it occasionally with tissue. If you get to the point you can't find additional blood, or it's going farther than you anticipate, 150 to 200 yards, you really seriously need to consider just marking last blood and getting out there and getting the dog on. Most trackers work on tips, So it's not like you're going to be spending $400 or $500. In most cases, you're going to maybe $50 to $100 tip is reasonable. And that's what I would do. If I had a questionable shot, I would lean towards getting a dog on it. You can always grid search after the dog's been there.
Okay, I gotta ask, as far as distance, not saying the animal, like actual taking a call from someone, do you stay relatively close? Or I guess the better question, what's the furthest you've driven to go help somebody track?
So we call on the app, we call it a service region. And I usually have a radius of about an hour to maybe an hour and a half. That's kind of my limit. We have enough trackers that you get beyond that, and then you basically just driven past some trackers that could have handled it for you. I've driven 4 hours to get to a track, to help a buddy out or help, or ended up working my way there. I may have driven 45 minutes to a track, and then there was another one 30 minutes away from that one. I drove to that, and then I went to the next one. By the time it was all said and done, I took 4 tracks, and they ended up 3 hours from home. So I really don't have a set limit, other than I have a guideline for most of my tracks. It's usually between an hour and a half from my house.
Last question for you, Shane. Do you think the development of this TRAKR app has helped improve the success rate as far as finding deer that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been found?
I wouldn't say the app has done that. I think it's probably helped recover deer that people would not be able to get a hold of a tracker because of its popularity it's gained over the past year. Trackers in general have, as a whole, or the community as a whole has reduced the amount of losses out there. I would say the app's biggest, I guess the word I'm looking for, benefit. The app's biggest benefit is making that connection from hunter to tracker much more efficient. And so you're able to get a tracker quicker or get in touch with one quicker. And it's not the only way you can get a hold of a tracker. You can submit a tracking request on the app, and then you can start calling around also, but the app's going to be working for you in the background in the meantime. I would ask listeners, if they do use the app and you find a tracker outside the app, either ask the tracker if they're on the app and have them just take your track through the app, or cancel your request on the app, because we do have that happen occasionally. Someone submits a request, you got 4 or 5 trackers offering their services, then they go find someone else outside the app with a dog, and they leave all these other trackers scratching their head like, do they need us or not? So that's it. But I'd say just overall, it's just made the connection between hunter and tracker more efficient.
Yeah, I think that's great. Wishing you all the best moving forward. And again, congrats on all the success you're seeing with it, Shane. How can our listeners find the app today on their devices?
You can go to Google Play or the Apple, their app store, either one, or you can go to our website, gettraker.com. We have links to download there. And folks, I apologize if I sound like I'm talking really quick. I don't normally talk like this, but we only have, how much time do we have on here? I'm trying to get as much information in a short amount of time as possible.
Yep. Hey, Shane, good luck to you this season, and thanks a lot for coming on the show this week, all right?
My pleasure, Brent. You take care.
Yep, always good to catch up with you. Again, that's Shane Simpson, and we appreciate you joining us here on Outdoor Adventures on Brownfield. Reminder that this week's show is brought to you by Beck's Hybrids. At Beck's, we are and will remain farmers at heart. I'm Brent Barnett on Brownfield. Have a great weekend.